Hey, heads up. We talk about serious, sometimes uncomfortable shit on this podcast. But don't worry, hopefully you're gonna laugh your ass off.
Coping chaos.
Thanks for joining us for Coping Chaos, a podcast about coping with the chaos of daily life while also navigating the uncertainties of mental illness. I'm Leah Williams.
And I'm KJ Servey. We're not medical professionals in any way, but we like to say we are not experts, but experts in our own mental health. We want to have a conversation with anyone who's been affected by mental illness in any way.
Today's episode we're calling Medically Mental, where we're going to touch on our diagnoses. How do you say that?
Diagnoses.
There we go. I could probably say that 10 times and still get it wrong. But we're going to touch on our diagnoses, mental and physical, whether it's actual ones we've gotten or ones we might suspect we have in the end. We're just going to kind of go with it.
Yeah, even misdiagnoses.
Yeah, exactly, which is a common.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
We will be going into more detail of different things in other episodes, like treatments and therapy and stuff. But we did want to kind of touch on those things because it's part of our diagnoses.
Exactly. And it differs depending on who it was that gave us the diagnosis or wherever we were when we got it, really. Yeah. Well, did you want to start with yours or?
Yeah, sure.
Take a deep breath. It's gonna...
There's a lot. So I'm going to start with physical because most of that I got diagnosed before my mental health. When I was, I think, about 10, I started fainting, but not all the time. But I fainted on the playground in 5th grade. We had just ran back and forth little races like you do on the playground.
Yeah.
I went over to the playground teacher and I told her, I'm like, I don't feel good. And then I fainted and she like caught me or something.
Oh my gosh.
And then it wasn't till like the next year in PE I fainted after running. And then when I was 17, right after I graduated high school, I was working at Target in the warehouse and I fainted on the warehouse floor. We were having a meeting. What was really funny is I came to and everybody's like grabbing things from the warehouse for like putting my feet on a box of popsicles.
Oh my gosh.
And getting a pillow and put just random things. It was really funny.
Well, I guess if you're going to faint somewhere, a warehouse is a good place. I don't know.
But then I had my maybe one and only ambulance trip, but they didn't turn on the sirens or anything.
Aww.
Wasn't that important. But they didn't give me the actual diagnosis that I know it is now. But basically, they diagnosed me with what I know as POTS, and that's postural orthostatic tachycardia. You know, people are going to be like experts. They're going to say, I don't know exactly. But basically, my heart rate gets too high and then my body overcompensates and drops it really low. And that's when I faint. So originally, they put me on beta blockers for a long time, but that made it hard to do things. And it didn't really seem to help. And that was the first time I was taking a medication and it said all the possible side effects. And I'm like, well, that's exactly what I'm taking this for. Because they were like,
to get against these side effects. Like, what the heck?
It was like,
could make it more severe. What?
Yeah, like, you could get fainting. I'm like, well, that's why I'm taking it. But
that doesn't make sense.
All right. I'm taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I dealt with that. I took the meds for a while. The good thing about it is my friend and I were trying to get into the National Guard and they wouldn't let me because I was on beta blockers. I'm not as strong. I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Yeah. And so, you know, I've dealt with everything for a long time. I got the IBS diagnosis so many times in my
Oh,
life.
which I hate that diagnosis.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie. Like, it's such a catch-all diagnosis that
Yeah.
doesn't actually describe what's going on. Just,
Totally.
oh, it's in your stomach. Well, it must be IBS. 'Cause we
I know.
can't figure it out.
I call it a non-diagnosis or a diagnosis of elimination.
Yeah,
'Cause-
exactly. I just call it a catch-all because
Yeah.
it's like they don't know where to put you, so they're just like, well, we'll just put you right here then.
Yeah, it's been the worst. I mean, I can't really say worst, but it's the most like life disturbing because I have to live my life around it and like be really careful. And I don't know, I have next week, I have my GI appointment and I'm really going to lay it all on line. Be like,
Oh, good.
I'm at the point where I need something drastic, but
Because once it starts controlling your life, it needs a solution.
right. I'm like, can I eat this right now at work? Am I gonna be able to go to the bathroom? And then, oh, if I go back and I need to go to the bathroom, is everybody gonna stare at me that I'm going
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
bathroom? Okay. And then when I was about 30, I got diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was a big one. I knew that I had been bit by a tick in second grade. And this is a funny thing that would only happen in the 80s.
Oh, here we go.
Totally. I didn't like PE. That's not my thing. I was a tiny girl and people picked on me. So I was sitting there right before PE and I felt a weird bump on the back of my neck, like right at my hairline. And it didn't hurt, no pain. But I was like, this is weird. And so.
Oh, yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. And so I went to my teacher and she got really concerned when she looked at it.
Oh,
And no one really told me what was happening. And so then I went to the office and I don't think we had a nurse, at least not that day. So it was like the secretary and the principal. They said the word tick, but that meant nothing to me.
yeah, because you're like too young to understand.
Yeah. And so they got matches out and were trying to get it to get out with matches.
The
They
heck?
they were like lighting it next to my neck and trying to push it and everything. Obviously, it didn't work. And
Yeah, no. Wow.
but can you imagine that happening to our kids?
I'd be like, no.
So then they called my mom and she came and got me. As we were leaving, my sister, who was in kindergarten, and we were passing by her because she was in line to get back in after recess or something. She's like, hey, we got to take your sister to the doctor because she has a bug in her neck. And I'm like, a
Oh,
bug?
oh, no.
I had no idea what a tick was.
You're like, wait a minute, what?
But that was Oregon in the 80s. And, at that time, it was only a East Coast thing, is what everybody thought. So it wasn't something people knew, having Lyme disease. But I also learned later that I probably had it when I was really young.
Oh, yeah.
I remember my biological mom, she always said I had chicken pox when I was like 15 months old, but I only had one. And that's just kind of crazy. And so now, 'cause she said there was a rash, so that could have been like the bullseye rash.
Ah, yeah.
So because of the way my symptoms were, they decided that that's probably it.
Yeah, because that is one of the main symptoms of Lyme disease. is
Yeah.
the bullseye rash.
But only on not a very big percentage.
Oh,
So there's a lot. I don't remember the percentages, but it's almost 50-50 in my mind, but I don't know really. Again, I'm not an expert.
right?
And my memory's really bad. And
Oh, me too. Me too.
so I don't really worry about the Lyme disease right now because there's just so many things wrong with me.
Kind of have to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so hard to go to the doctor.
Yeah. So my biggest and most important physical diagnosis was Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I was diagnosed probably around 40, which I'm 47 now. So it's a connective tissue disorder. So my joints fall out because there's no
Wrong tissue.
Yeah, they're just not holding things in. But also connective tissue is in every part of your body. Even my GI, quote, IBS probably is part of that, or the Lyme disease.
Or a mixture of the two.
Yeah. And then, like, I have scoliosis, which is part of it, and bulging discs. my spine. I have TMJ, so and many other things, but those are all things that are related to the Ehlers-Danlos. People always made fun of me when I stood because my knees kind of pushed backwards. And
Oh.
so I had almost like a curved back leg, and I didn't know it was like that abnormal, but yeah, I'd been researching and knew for a while that it probably was, but it took a while. I finally got my primary doctor to do like the screening. It's called the Baton scale, I think. He referred me to Mayo and they diagnosed me there. You have to go to a gene.
Specialist.
Yeah, but I forget what they're called.
Yeah, I was
But
like, I was thinking,
it's
like,
not
I
like
know the name.
genealogist. That's not right, I don't think. Genetics doctor. Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
That's right. That's right.
and
Or geneticist or something.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm just making up words at this point. I don't know.
But, we went through all the genetic stuff. But he said at the end, he's like, "Oh, I watched you walk in here and I knew you had it right away."
No. Well, it's so nice though, like to get that diagnosis though, I'm sure.
Yeah, some reassurance is nice that like I'm not crazy since, we talked about that last episode, going to the ER and they're always like, "You're fine."
Yeah, that's their favorite thing. It's in your brain.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You're not actually feeling pain. And I'm like, wow, thank you for telling me what I'm feeling. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess you got to keep hearing me talk. Mental health was something I didn't really.
You didn't focus on it?
Yeah, or
think
even
that it affected you?
Yeah, or even consider it. Like, I used to joke, I'll go into this other times, but I had a pretty traumatic childhood. After my divorce, I would joke with people, and I was probably 22. It's weird that I'm not depressed. I'm someone that should probably be depressed with everything that's happened to me.
You're like, little did you know you actually were experiencing it, but had no knowledge of that's what was happening.
Exactly. And then it wasn't till like, I don't know, we moved to Minnesota in 2012. And it wasn't till either right before that, I think, we would be in the car and all of a sudden I would like be scrambling to try to roll down my window. We had young kids, so we had the window locks.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'd be like, roll down the window. And I didn't realize it was like anxiety, panic attacks, like out of nowhere. And it took me a while to learn that was anxiety, but it was pretty wild. So yeah, I didn't get like actually diagnosed with any of that until about, 2020, like when the pandemic happened is when I started finally doing therapy and getting some diagnoses.
And understanding that this is actually more than just physical, this is mental as well.
Yeah. And that's when they did diagnose me with anxiety. And also they had diagnosed me with bipolar, but we now know that was a misdiagnosis.
I feel like that's a common misdiagnosis from my experience and from hearing from you as well. When you have mania attached to anything, they want to automatically, I feel like, say, oh, bipolar, which could be an explanation for some people, but definitely not something you want to just throw out there willy-nilly at people.
Yeah. They diagnosed me with depression, major depression, but now I'm called treatment-resistant depression, and we'll talk about that later. Yeah, and PTSD. At that time, I was diagnosed with PTSD as well. I went through with those for a while, and when I was hospitalized, we kept trying different things and talking about different things, and all of a sudden, she was like a brand new therapist, and her first job was working in that unit. And I had already told her that I didn't like my psychiatrist that was outside of the hospital because she was brand new.
Oh.
And I didn't realize she was brand new. But she's the first one. She's like, "Have you heard of harm OCD? I think you have OCD and probably harm OCD." And I was like, "No." And she printed out this thing that told me all about OCD. And it was just like, check, check, check as I was reading this, and then I like
crazy, but nice.
Yeah, it's
to go in with no idea and to see something that's like, oh, maybe this could be something.
Yeah, I didn't get officially diagnosed for a while, but it was in talks with all the providers in the hospital and outside. So eventually, I did. It's a double-edged sword, finding out, oh, there is something.
Yeah.
But then, oh crap, it's this.
Yeah, especially if it's something that they're like, well, we've got like 18 different medications for that. So we're
Yeah.
going to try them all out on you, see
Yeah.
what works. It's like, great, great.
It's funny though because I think back to my very first job. I worked in a television station. I did all the production assistant stuff, and there was a story one day on this young girl that she had certain OCD, and they were talking about how she wouldn't stop eating, and they had to put locks on all
Oh,
the
yeah, I've heard
cupboards.
of that before.
Yeah, and all this stuff, and then they were just naming different things that like she pulled up her socks all the time. And everybody was looking at me and they're like, "Hey, that sounds like you."
Oh,
And they're
no.
like, "I did always pull my socks up. I couldn't stop eating." And I'm like, "Oh my God." But I laughed it off. I'm like, I don't have OCD. So now, whatever, 30 some odd years later, I'm like,
You're
oh
like,
my God.
crap, I guess I do. I guess they were
It made
right.
me think of that because I thought it was so funny. But the more I learn, with my therapist and stuff, I'm like, how did it take 47 years to get
Right?
diagnosed with this? Because I'm like, this matches everything that I've been explaining to people. Like, I'm thinking this is how I'm feeling, but it doesn't match how I actually feel. And I'm like, it's somebody else's feelings and stuff like that. And that's OCD to a T, but I think that's most of what I have. I mean, there's lots of stuff, but that's the basic stuff, I guess.
Well, what would you say is probably the most physical thing that affects you the most? And what would be the most mental thing that, or does it all just kind of combine to make it harder?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the combination is hard, but I think with the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, physical pain, it's going to be degenerative.
Oh, yeah.
It causes so much pain. People don't believe me, but my daily pain is usually 6.5 to 7.5 on the scale. People are like, usually that's when they're in the hospital is when it's
Yeah,
that
but
way.
if you feel pain constantly, you build up a tolerance in
Yeah.
a way. I mean, you still feel it and it's still affecting you and giving you stress, but you can kind of handle it mentally a tiny bit better.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm even saying that right, but
No, it's kind of a dissociation.
yeah, that's exactly it.
Or I kind of just in my mind move it and I'm like stubborn. I'm like, well, I have to work. I have to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that definitely is probably the worst because of the pain. And right now the OCD and PTSD, they're working together in a
Oh,
really
yeah,
terrible
yeah.
way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think all of it, like, because OCD is anxiety to like a million. And
Yeah,
so, and
that's
then,
true.
so do you want to stop
Yeah.
me from talking and
No,
share
it's
yours?
I love to hear all of that just because it's different from a lot of the things I've experienced, but still when we talk, we still have so many similarities, which is why we're doing this podcast because there's so many differences, but so many similarities.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting. And I think, yeah, it sparked our interest in hearing other people's stories as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think for myself, I know you started with your physical stuff because that kind of manifested earlier in life for
Yeah.
you. But I feel like for me, it was more of the mental health issues that I was diagnosed with. Like at 9 years old was when I first had went in. The doctor first diagnosed me with ADHD, put me on, Prozac or something like similar to that. And then they realized, oh, actually it's chronic depression and ADHD. And so they put me on Paxil, they put me on all these other medications. And I was like 10, 11,
Oh, wow.
taking these strong medications that you shouldn't probably be taking unless you know for sure it's going to change your daily life. Because I
Yeah.
feel like even though I was very depressed and I did have chronic depression and I've always had it, I don't feel like, to me, a good idea to give me medication. I feel like
Mhm.
after I took medication for many years, I developed anxiety, almost like an after effect. I don't know. I don't really know.
Right.
But it felt like that because that's when my anxiety started getting really bad.
When you're so young, you don't understand everything. And
I always felt like our mom was trying to find a solution to me being what she considered the black sheep of the kids because I would act out more. I was more hyper. I would say how I felt. We were more brought up to you keep those things to yourself, kind of.
I remember you around that. Well, you were younger, but me and my sister that lived with me, we would visit. Well, 2 summers we visited I just remember you being fun and silly and wild. But recently I did read some things that your mom wrote back then. And
Yeah,
that
because
was,
she was a big journaler, so
yeah.
she chronicalized our life
Yeah.
literally in books.
She would do like a journal in like less than a month, like go
Oh,
through
yeah.
a full size
Oh, yeah, she's
journal.
got a whole, like, encyclopedia volume of journals, you know?
So we were specifically looking for something, but yeah, the way that she wrote about you was really different than what I saw.
Yeah,
Not,
negative.
yeah, it
I
was.
mean, it was just one of those things I feel like she just felt like I was so much harder to understand, to deal with than the other kids, and I questioned things too much, and it's just the way I am,
Yeah.
But I was also very depressed. I wouldn't get up. I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't shower. I wouldn't do anything. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I stopped taking medication when I was like 15 because I just didn't want to anymore. And I feel like being on the medication and being off the medication was almost the same, except I was having the negative side effects of the medication.
Oh, yeah.
So, which I always seem to get more than the positive effects from medication. The next thing is like fast forward to when I'm in the military, because I joined the Army when I was 17, almost 18. And I went in and I grew up strictly Mormon. So I grew up very structured religious type of lifestyle. And it was just very different. There was a lot of things I didn't understand and a lot of stresses that I didn't even know existed in the world. It was very stressful. And the authority, if you don't do things perfectly right, they don't like you. And so I felt like from the beginning, I was kind of doing things wrong or something because I just felt like I was always in trouble. And so I had a lot of issues with my self-worth. And so I got into really bad depression. And that's actually how I got out of the military, was because I made some bad decisions. And they were like, you're too depressed to be here. So actually, I got out on a general under honorable conditions, but I got out like 2 years early.
Oh, wow.
For my mental health issues. So, though they didn't say that's what it was, because if they did, they'd be owing me money right now.
Oh, really?
So they said it for something totally different. It was like a big thing that had happened with one of my NCOs, my sergeants, and she had like lied to our first sergeant, which is like the guy at the top of our company. It's hard to explain, but pretty much this person who was in charge of me was lying and saying I had said things and done things I had not done right there with me standing right there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I never said or did that. And then this other person, of course, they didn't believe me. Oh. And they believed this other person and are saying I'm lying. And it was just horrible. It was just horrible because I grew up, we didn't lie. So like it was crazy to me to have somebody blatantly lie like that. It really messed with my psyche, I feel like, because I realized that, I only have myself. I have nobody that can help me. It was a hard time. I had a very bad depression. And then right after I got out, I had my daughter, and then probably like a year later, my depression was just so terrible that I got stuck into a hospital against my will, but it was intense. So pretty much through all of this, my diagnoses are pretty much depression and anxiety, chronic depression. And then, of course, there's the ADHD thing that's been thrown in there since when I was a child, but I've never really taken medications for it. I just kind of live with it because to me, there's other things that affect me so much more negatively that I have to focus on. That's the majority of my mental health issues that I know of. But, it's enough. So, but I also have a lot of physical issues. I also have IBS, severe stomach issues. We have no idea. I've gotten biopsies. I've got everything done you can get done. I've had two colonoscopies.
I've also had 2 colonoscopies and they're like, oh, it looks great.
Yeah. Or they'll just say, oh, that looks like a tiny bit of swelling maybe in like your colon. But other than that, it's totally fine. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't feel fine. So really what you're saying is I did all of this uncomfortableness of having to fast or drink that disgusting liquid they make you drink to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then in the end, they're like, oh, well, we don't have a solution for you. So, and I'm like, oh, that's But yeah, so my biggest, I guess, physical things is IBS. So that affects me every day, all the time. I have to be constantly thinking the same as KJ does. Is this food I'm eating right now going to mess me up in 30 minutes, in an hour? I have to like predict. It's really difficult. But then I also recently was not officially diagnosed, but I had a doctor tell me that she thinks I have lupus. She did some testing, but that she doesn't want to have to do the diagnosis herself. Really, she was a nurse practitioner and not a doctor, so I don't know if that had something to do with it. Pretty much she was like, oh, well, you're moving to Minnesota. They have the Mayo Clinic there, so you might as well just do it there. And I'm like, oh, yeah, let me just go walk into the Mayo Clinic. Like
magical.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get into the Mayo Clinic. You need a lot of references and, not reference, what is it called?
Referral. Yeah, exactly. Which is the same thing pretty much, except for on a fancier term with doctors. But yeah, I'm like, well, who's going to give me the referral for that, But I just stopped going because I'm like, this is a waste of my time. And then I keep getting bills. So I'm like, not fun. But my biggest issues are like anemia. So I get really ill if I don't eat within a certain amount of time, even though there's a lot of days I don't even want to eat at all. I'm just not hungry. I don't want to eat, but I force myself to because I know I'm going to feel this weird dizziness. I have like enlarged lymph nodes. Groin area, in my neck area, and those are things that we still haven't figured out what's going on with my body. So there's a lot of physical things, but I feel like for me, my biggest problem is definitely my depression and anxiety because they mix together. And then on top of it, I do feel like I have a form of like ADHD. So I feel like that a lot of times they clash.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the majority. And I'm sure we'll talk about it on another episode, like the hospitals we've been to and the treatments that we've done and things like that. But for the most part, I'm just given medication, put in a corner and said, you'll be all right. Or if it's a physical thing, they go, oh, no, it's anxiety. It's not. And I'm like, what are you talking about? My leg is swollen. Like, what?
You talked about hospitalizations and some of the medications. What other kind of treatments do you think you've had?
I mean, I did a little bit of therapy type of stuff, but I feel like most of the treatments I did were just in the hospitals. They tried a lot of different things depending on the hospital.
Okay.
And probably the best hospital I went to, they tried like music therapy, or there's a lot of different types of therapies that they do that are not medication based.
Yeah.
I feel like my issue is it can work one time and then it won't work again the next time I try to do it. But for the most part, right now, I'm just diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I have no medications except for what I do for myself. So, because I medicate myself through smoking marijuana, but...
And you have a medical card, so you
Yes, I do. I do have a medical card.
You get the kind that works for you and
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that. Though I feel like here it's so different than it was in the other state I lived in, because the other state, they were much further along, so they had much cheaper products and options. That's the biggest problem is they say medical marijuana, but you can't actually get it through medical. If you have insurance or anything, it doesn't matter. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. I feel like I have a lot of physical things that affect me, but for the most part, my biggest problems are definitely my mental illnesses that I just don't have a great solution to.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I mean, if I had just my physical, that would suck. But having all the mental and the physical.
Yeah, having you physically being dragged down on top of being mentally dragged down, that's very difficult.
It's just, it all plays off each other. And, the more pain I'm in, the more I can't do, the more depressed I am.
Yeah, exactly. And the more negative we feel about ourselves because we're like, we should be able to do this. I should be doing this now. Or, the guilt. I know I feed myself guilt constantly.
Oh, 100%.
Like a guilt trip party all the time for me. And
yeah. So as far as treatments for me, I have treatment resistant depression. I've been diagnosed with that because I have tried literally over 40 medications in my life, and either they do nothing, or most of the time I have pretty severe side effects that I can't wait to the 6 to 8 weeks to see if it
for
works.
it to affect you. Yeah,
Exactly.
Because that's one thing about these mental health medications. Some of them take time. Like, it's not an instant fix. You have to have it settle in your body for like 2 months. And it's like, that's great. Except for if the negative side effect makes me even more depressed, how am I going to wait 2 more months and be more depressed? It doesn't make sense.
Like I said earlier, depression medications, they're like, it could cause suicidal ideation.
Yes, it's like those commercials, like, it could kill you, but it'll take that headache away. Like, what?
It's so wild. But yeah, so I've tried and I am on a new medication right now and I've had some side effects. Some of them are tapering off. I don't have any good things about it yet. One of the side effects, though, like we were just saying, is anger. I don't have an anger issue most of the time. I usually get frustrated.
Yeah.
But I've had some pretty major anger feelings.
Like that seething feeling that it's not used to. Things that wouldn't normally have bothered you to that degree bother you at a much higher level. So you're like confused, like, what the heck?
Yeah, totally.
The hell, man.
But I think that's going down too, but we'll see. So yeah, I start off with meds. Let's see, I'm trying to go kind of in order, but
Oh, yeah.
back probably, I don't know, 7 years ago, probably again around being 40, my primary doctor had given me some meds and, told me to do therapy. And so the therapist they had in that office, now I know it was just talk therapy. And she was like this kind of hippie lady, kind of woo woo, and like had like all these things on her shelf and would bring them out, just random stuff, and on the floor because she wanted to make a timeline of my life and trauma. And all this stuff.
Crazy.
So she'd have a little frog, and that would be when I did this, and it was really
so weird.
And I felt like I would be friends with her outside of, like, she would be a really cool, crazy friend.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like, okay, talk therapy is not for me.
Yeah. This isn't working.
No. But then it was, years later, it was probably 2020 or 2021, because I remember it was just kind of when everybody went into lockdown and the whole virtual stuff started.
Oh, yeah, which I'm so grateful for because honestly, they should have been doing that
I know.
forever ago.
It gives you so much access if you don't drive, if you're,
Yeah, well, and just the
so
fact
sick.
that I could do teledoc for
Yeah.
me with my anxiety, that was so much more helpful. I went to the doctor more through teledoc than I've ever gone to the doctor.
Oh, 100%. And it's a game changer.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's just how I remember how long ago it was. So it wasn't that long ago. I started doing therapy and going to a psychiatrist at that time. And that's where I really started all the medicine trials.
That's why I've been hesitant to work more on my mental health because I'm just so scared of what they're going to try to give me and what side effects I might have. Like, I'm already dealing with so much. I don't want to put more on my plate by trying to get better. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
It's hard. I'm encouraged because my 18-year-old, she's been going to her psychiatrist since she was 8. So 10 years. And, there's been trial and error. And then she's also outgrown some meds and things like that. But it really helps her. Like if she skips them,
you can tell.
So it's like nobody can say that meds don't work. So
from personal experience that you've seen it.
It's just night and day if she doesn't take it. So I'm grateful for that, especially, as a mother, you're like,
oh, yeah.
I'd much rather I suffer than her. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started that, and I also started therapy. And she was doing, like, trauma therapy with me, which the EMDR. It didn't work well for me because it was a lot of, like, visualization and, like, picture you there, notice this.
Oh.
And for my brain, I'm like, am I doing it right? Am I
Right?
just bullshitting my way through this?
It's too hard to even focus on the task at hand because you're like, am I doing the task right? How do
And
you
she's
even
like,
do
you're
this?
doing great. I'm like, I think I'm just making shit up.
I think I'm doing this to please you and not actually doing something that's helping me right now.
Totally. And so that didn't really work well. I was doing it, but then she transferred to another place and I couldn't see her there. And so then I didn't do therapy because I didn't want to go through trying to find another
Oh,
therapist.
yeah, because
'Cause
that is a process from people I've heard.
yeah, it's hard and it's just daunting when you already have anxiety and
Yeah.
depression and
See, and I have
PTSD.
social anxiety, so, like, sometimes I'll get very antisocial, and especially if it's something for myself, like having to talk to a doctor, having to talk to a therapist, it's just impossible for me to wanna do that.
Totally. So it wasn't till October of 2023. There's just lots of things that kind of built up. I pushed myself physically and mentally. I was working 4 jobs.
Was that when you were working at the pizza place?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
I worked at the pizza place. I did full-time paraprofessional at a middle school. I was doing PCA for our nephew a couple nights
Oh,
a
yeah.
week.
Yeah, I do remember.
Oh, and then I edit a podcast. I just got to a physical and mental point that I couldn't handle anything. It was hard. Being a paraprofessional, I love working with kids. I love middle schoolers because it's just so crazy.
They're cute, I love it.
And I'm an empath, so holding their traumas and
Oh,
their
yeah.
issues was really draining on me. And
I think I'm also just like you with the empath stuff. Maybe that's why I have social anxiety because I can just sense
yes,
people
yes.
sometimes. And I'm like, this is too much for me. I need silence.
So, yeah, in later we'll talk more about that kind of stuff, but I ended up taking myself to the hospital. So it was my choice, but because I was afraid of myself, basically.
Yeah.
And they did admit me, and I ended up being there for 2 months and then did outpatient and partial hospitalization and then was back in for another 2-3 weeks. While I was there, they tried more medication, some new medications, and again, I had side effects. Things didn't work. So then they decided to do ECT, which is electroconvulsive therapy. So it's kind of what electric shock therapy turned
Which
into.
when you told me about that the other day, I actually didn't realize they still did that. I know that was like the main thing they used to do, but it's a totally different process now than what it was.
So they put you under anesthesia. I don't know exactly what they do, but they basically induce a seizure, but only for like 30 seconds or I don't know exactly. I was out. So.
Yeah. Thank goodness for that.
And a side effect of the ECT is memory loss. So I have a hard time grasping thoughts and memories. So, but I did 12 sessions of that, which is a lot. It's kind of the max they like to do, but it didn't do anything. There was no change.
But at that point, you're like, I need a solution.
Yeah.
And if this is going to help me, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And then I have a friend who I'm still friends with. She did the ECT as well while we were in the hospital, and she did like 7 or 8. And she was like, it was like a light switch went on. So,
oh, crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of frustrating that things haven't worked, but I do kind of tuck away when people tell me how whatever made them feel better made them feel, because then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll know.
The next time.
That's the thing in my brain. Am I going to even know if it's working?
Right? No, I think that a lot. They'll be like, oh, does it feel like you feel better? And I'm like, I don't think so. Is there some like magical thing I should feel in my brain? Or like happy butterflies or something? I don't know.
Yeah, and so that didn't work. They tried other medications as I was leaving, like ones that I had to change my diet, and there was lots of complications with that. After I was discharged the second time, I had to do DBT, and I was going to write down what it meant, but I don't. It's like, anyways, and that's where you do individual therapy once a week and group therapy once a week. And it's pretty intense. You do a lot of homework, a lot of worksheets.
I think I did that when I was in the mental hospital, now that you're mentioning it. I remember doing that.
It was really interesting, and I learned a lot of tools. It's really good for a lot of things, but the main thing that scared me, that made me go into the hospital, that's part of my OCD that we know now, it just wasn't working. And so she's like, maybe you do have OCD. And so they sent me to a partial hospitalization program that was like all day, 5 days a week. And there was group and individual, and they didn't put me in the OCD program right away, even though I kept saying, hey, that's why I'm here,
Yeah.
And they were going through some changes, but I finally got into that program, and you did some group stuff, but a lot of it you did exposure therapy where you were in a little tiny room by yourself,
Oh.
and you had to do things like one of the things that's less graphic is I'm always afraid my husband's going to leave me. That's even though we've been together 19 years, everything's good. So I had to write things down like he may or may not leave me, and you have to like tell them it's a scale from 1 to 7 how stressed you are, and then how long it takes you to get down a few steps or whatever. I mean, that's still a really hard one for me, but
Yeah.
there's other more graphic ones. So I did that for a couple months, but I stopped early because their program changed all of a sudden and it wasn't beneficial to me. But then I found an individual therapist who used to work at that program. And so she did the same kind of therapy and stuff. And that's who I see now.
Okay.
When we were in the hospital and when I was in that partial hospitalization, we also did cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it taught me a lot. But again, I'm just so focused on fixing this part of me that, takes over everything that I really need to keep focusing on that. And I'm doing another therapy with my current therapist. We were doing like the exposure therapy, but she decided that we need to do some trauma therapy because it's kind of feeding my OCD and we need to deal with some of it. So this one is CPT, which is cognitive processing therapy, I think. And it was actually designed for like veterans with PTSD.
Oh, okay.
It's a program that has a lot of like worksheets and things like that. But luckily there's an app that's come out, and this is the first time she's doing it with the app. But I don't think I would sit down and do all the worksheets, but I can think of something while anywhere and just put it on my phone and
Oh, yeah.
fill out the worksheet.
It's easier
So,
that way. Or you could voice memo it even.
yeah, it's really helpful. I think it's better than the EMDR for me because I'm processing on paper and I don't know, or not really paper, but I'm writing it down, I'm reading it. I mean, I was telling you, Leigh, that when I read it, I'm like, you should know all this stuff. You do know all this stuff. Why are you thinking this opposite? But I think it's going to be a good thing, hopefully.
Well, and you're kind of at the point in life where it's like, I'm going to try whatever I can try to get better quality of life. So
Yeah. So since I had the ECT that didn't work, I was referred to a treatment resistant depression clinic where they wanted to see if I was a candidate for a VNS implant. So it's vagus nerve stimulator. They put like a battery pack in my chest, just like the same as a pacemaker. Then there's a wire that goes from that, and they separated my vagus nerve from whatever else it's attached to. Again, I was out. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
And they wrap the wire around the vagus nerve. It's supposed to help, I don't know, send signals, but it takes a long time. I got it placed December of 2024. But there was some mix-up, and so I didn't get it turned on until March of last year. So, yeah.
So and you just had it in you?
Yeah. Well, and my doctor was like, what? They waited that long? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I kept saying I need it turned on.
Yeah.
I know. But he says it can take up to a year to know if things are working.
Gosh.
So that's still, 3 months? A little less.
Did they at least give you an explanation of how you'll feel if it's working?
I mean, I do see him every few months, and they adjust it or, we talk about it. And that's why he started me on the medication I'm on, because things have gone worse and things over time. And he's also was really impressed of how, because they they turn up the intensity every so often, and they were able to turn mine up pretty quickly, and I tolerated like a high dose that people don't normally, especially right away. Again, it's probably my high pain tolerance. That's what
I was going to say, does it like sting or
I mean,
like a sharp pain?
Not necessarily. Like when it first was on, you could kind of just feel that it was on because it turns on. Well, originally it turned on for 30 seconds and then it was off for 5 minutes. So I could tell when it turned on, and I just felt like I had a really dry, sore throat when it was on. And then when it wasn't, I was fine. Then as they turned it up, there were some other things. Like there was pain in some of my other nerves, like in my tooth or behind my eye. But as it kept going, like those nerves kind of got used to it, I guess. Now, the most recent few months ago, he changed it. And this is something new that sometimes they're trying. So this was originally for epilepsy.
Okay, that makes sense.
He changed it to like on 30 seconds, off only like less than a minute and a half. I don't know, it's like a minute something. And for me now, I hardly ever feel it turn on because I think before it like had the time to like everything went back to square one and then boom, it went back. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I don't notice it as much anymore.
I'll say good. I don't know either, but I'll say good. I'm going to put it out there in the universe.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of just like not so quick,
Yeah.
but definitely a smaller amount of time explanations.
Well, it's so interesting to hear about that because besides you, I haven't heard of anybody that's gotten that done. So it's so interesting to hear about that.
To be honest, it's like I got to be pretty desperate. I mean, I am, and it's hard. I don't want to like be super negative, but I'm pretty hopeless because so many things haven't helped, and it's like, okay, I had them shock my brain and nothing helped.
It's like, how much further do I have to go?
I don't know what there is. I did try ketamine too between.
Oh, yeah, I have heard of ketamine, but I'm too scared to try that for sure.
Well, I had a really horrible reaction to that the first dose, and my current treatment resistant doctor, he was being really nice and talking me into possibly trying it again because he thought maybe they'd tried me on a higher dose. So once we got those records, he was like, nope, they started you on the tiniest dose. So I had that terrible reaction on like a baby dose.
Oh, crazy. But you never know. That's why everybody's brain is so different. One thing can totally work for somebody and then not work at all for somebody else.
I know so many people that keep saying, have you tried ketamine? It was life-changing. And I'm like,
I have heard people say that to me as well, but then I'll read some of the negatives with it and I'm like, I'm going to be affected more probably by that than the positive. So I'm not trying it right now. But, give it a year. Who knows how I'm going to be feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're keeping it real here because I'm pretty hopeless, but I hope it's a hard thing for me right now because I'm 47 and nothing's helped with mental health.
And the more that you do and get bad results, the even more hopeless you feel because it's like, what else can I possibly do? Do I just have to live with this? Because I can't. So it's like...
That's what I say to my husband. I'm like, we're pretty much at the end. I mean, there's some meds and stuff they can kind of try. Like the med I'm on right now that we just started is Parkinson's medication. They use also for restless leg syndrome, which is weird because it's making me really restless.
Oh.
But yeah, so there's, medications that they're finding that off-label they can help with treatment-resistant depression. But part of me goes through the motions, like, to prove the doctors are wrong or like check the boxes. Like, okay, I tried what you told me.
And it didn't work, now what?
Sorry, you're getting the real KJ right now.
No. That's what this is all about, honestly.
It's hard because I'm kind of like, I force myself to work, am I get disability or not? Then I'm just home all that, it's hard to weigh everything. So it's a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then that goes into, which we'll later be talking about, the energy thing and how... you only have a certain amount of energy that you can disperse through the day. You have to be picky and choosy about it. So it's like, do I want to put extra energy into trying to figure this out if it's not even going to, or should I just use it to live the life today,
Right.
Try to get through the day.
For sure. Oh, well, this is a lot today, but I hope it helped you guys understand kind of where we're coming from. It's just a brief overview, although we talked a lot.
Our form of brief.
Yeah, we could spend days, like we said last episode. We want to hear from you guys because we want to know what questions you have for us. We also want you to share your experiences,
your struggles.
Yeah. you had similar, had different experiences. Like I said, maybe you had ECT and it was amazing. Well, tell me about it, you know?
Yeah, I want to hear. I want to know. I want to hear all the negatives and positive dirt we can hear.
Yeah. And again, if you give permission, we'll share or we'll, just respond to you, whatever you guys feel comfortable with. We just really want to be this community. I know we have been saying that, but
we just want this conversation. We want to not only talk about it amongst each other, but we really want to hear other people's thoughts, feelings, opinions, experiences, because I feel like, especially when you're at the point where you're just feeling so hopeless, you're craving something else as a solution. So to hear other people's solutions really is going to help, I think.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And we have a lot of really exciting topics to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about living our daily lives. Like I was saying, the energy thing, about our limited energy and how we disperse it, how we choose to disperse it, and how it's definitely a difficult thing to do. We're going to do an episode mainly about a lot of the negatives. And there's going to be a lot of negatives because that's just what mental health is. But it's going to be probably the biggest negatives. And I think that that's probably going to be our next episode.
Yep, that's our next episode.
So that one is kind of definitely going to be hitting a few topics that might be hard to hear, which we'll have a disclaimer, of course, for the next episode to kind of give you better detail what we might be covering. But, with anything with mental illness, there's definitely a lot of negative that we want to talk about. After that, we want to focus next on positive because you got to, even if it's not as long as the negatives, you sometimes have to focus on the positives as much as you can. So
got to find that silver lining.
Yeah. And then we'll give examples of positives for us. And then hopefully we can hear from other people positive aspects that they've experienced through their mental health or different things like that. We're also going to cover, like I said, living our daily lives, meals, shopping, food stress, decision making. Everything to do with those things takes so much more effort when you have a mental illness behind it, guiding it or not guiding it, doing the opposite. That's the next couple that are coming up.
I'm really excited about that. I know our first ones are getting to know us, the negatives and positives, but really getting into the daily things is going to be really
the nitty gritty of it all.
Yeah.
Things that you wouldn't even know you have to think about that people with mental health issues or difficulties are dealing with and thinking about or overthinking about. That's the real thing.
Well, we really hope you stick around and listen to those and communicate with us as well.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when we first came up with this idea, I was a little bit unsure because I'm a person that's pretty private, doesn't love to share negatives at all. But I feel like even just talking a little bit has already started to make me feel better, more confident. And I feel like that'll help other people too. It's got to.
Yeah, it's definitely taking control a little bit.
Yeah. In the only way that I feel like I can at this point.
Yeah.
So.
When there's no control.
Yeah.
The chaos, right? That's
exactly.
why we called it this. Well, speaking of chaos, we like to have a little segment called Chaos Corner. We like to talk about something that happened recently that gave us a little chaos.
Sparked the chaos in our life. Yeah.
Threw our day for a loop. So. You want to go first, Leah?
Yeah, sure. There really are so many things, but I think one of the biggest things has to do with I have a child with autism, so he has to do things a very specific way. And one of those things is his shoes. He has to wear specific shoes for specific tasks. The other day, even though I always keep them lined up, lately he's been moving them around the house. I think it was just 3 days ago, maybe. And we have to take out the garbage daily because my room's so small and I'm always scared of bugs. So I always am like, okay, 10 o'clock, we're going to go take out the garbage every day. 10 o'clock, we go and take the garbage. But we could not find his shoes.
Oh.
And so I feel like I had a bigger meltdown than he did. Just because I'm like, why can't I find these dang shoes? I always put them in the same place, blah, 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 But I feel like for some reason it really triggered me to feel extra anxious, extra stressed. And then I just started railing on myself, you're so worthless. You can't even find a pair of shoes, just silly things that I'm like, in the moment, it's so manic. It just happens really quickly and starts stacking quickly over and over. But then later I think back and I'm like, it's just shoes,
Right.
It's just shoes. there's going to be a 10 o'clock tomorrow. We can wait one day to do the garbage. But in my mind, my anxiety is like, no, we have to do, he needs routine. He's got to have a routine. I got to stick to,
Yeah.
it's just all these things.
Yeah. As a mother of an autistic child as well, I was kind of mentioning earlier, you're kind of anticipating and not wanting him to get escalated.
Yeah. And then in doing so, I escalated myself.
And
so
that's almost a daily for me. And, my daughter just turned 18, but it still have similar issues no matter what age.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's tough. I've had those kind of issues and then getting mad at myself.
Because usually I'm so good with it that I don't know what it was, but I just really was upset with myself and blaming myself when I know there was nothing I could have done to control that situation.
Right.
But for some reason, I just wanted to have someone to blame. And if I don't have someone to blame, I blame myself. I don't know. So definitely chaotic. And I feel like I'm hopefully learned from that. So
no, it'll happen again. You know that. We just got to roll with it.
Yeah,
all the chaos. And
next time it'll be gloves probably. But they're not as serious as shoes. So I don't know.
Well, hopefully we only have a few more months.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Maybe, KJ, you'd like to share your Chaos Corner moment?
Sure. So I'm going to give a little warning. If you don't like bodily fluid, fecal matter, then you'll have to skip for a minute here because, again, we talk about everything. We're pretty real.
Yeah, you gotta be.
Yes, this is an IBS issue, and I was actually, Leia lives about an hour away, so I was visiting them. I was staying at a hotel, and then we were running errands. This is kind of what I did. I ate, and then I was like, hey, Leia, we're going to have to sit here for an hour, just make sure I can go poop before I leave.
So that you're not having the surprise when you're out and there's no bathroom.
And so I waited, and I tried twice and nothing was happening. I'm like, okay, there's no cramps or pain, so maybe I'll be okay. And so we were like driving around. We did, I think, one stop, and then we were going to do another stop. And then I was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. And I was like, and I don't know the area, and Leia doesn't drive, so she doesn't know the area.
And I'm new to the area too, so I'm like, I don't have a clue.
So we're like, where's the gas station?
Gas station has to have a bathroom.
I know. I'm like, oh, Leia has to get somewhere. We have two boys in the car. I'm like, I'm trying to just do our errands. And so we found one. And then I'm like getting out of the car, but I'm like, am I going to make it? And to be honest, there's been times where I didn't make it.
Right?
So.
Me too.
But yeah, it was really, really stressful. And then I went in and I did make it, but then I'm in there for a long time because it takes a long time. Even though it's painful and may come out right at once, but then there's more.
Well, sometimes it'll start coming out and then it'll just stop. But I can still feel the severe cramping and pain and sweating. And
yes. And
I'll sweat so bad. And I'm like, this is craziness.
I know. Like if I'm at home, I strip because I'm just...
Yeah, because I'm like, I feel like I've been in a battle, It's crazy.
Yeah, so just like Leia was talking about, I get mad at myself. I'm like, oh, they're out there waiting, they're sitting in the truck. There's nothing to do. I'm in here, and it just spirals.
And we were totally fine, by the way. We didn't even notice. But, I'm the exact same way. I do that too.
They're like, oh, we're just chilling in the car.
Yeah, we were pointing out the people that were walking.
But yeah, and then we did our stop, but I think I had to stop somewhere else too, or wherever we were. I don't remember, but it's just one of those things that, kind of is a normal thing, but it's so stressful. And again, IBS or whatever the fuck it is just ruling my life right now.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it would help, but I'm like ready to tell my doctors we need to do a feeding tube or something. And I know I'm not to the point where they can do that, but I'm going to tell them because it's just... And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to eat because if I eat and then we're going somewhere, like today we went out and my husband's like, you got to eat. And I'm like, yeah, but if I eat, then I'm going to have to poop while we're at the store. And that just shouldn't have to think about that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't be one of the things that is making a day harder. There's already so many other things.
Oh, well, we also want to hear your chaos of the week. So like we said last week, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Coping Chaos Podcast. Our email is copingchaospodcast@gmail.com. We say that no input is bad input, but just please no hate. We just want peace and community. We also would love for you to review our podcast. We're new, but if you enjoy it and want to hear more, it will really help us build our community. We'll also know what you guys want more of, how to improve, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know this has been a long one, but I think it was an important one to really get to know where we're coming from.
Yeah, exactly. To see how different our experiences are, but how similar a lot of things that we're feeling are, because I think that's very important that everybody understands that, but we can still have a positive conversation about it and share things that might still help somebody else that's dealing with something else.
A person isn't just what they have, it's a whole story. And so we had to kind of go through, in a not quick way.
Yeah.
It's funny because we did take a long time, but that's the only way to do it. But we didn't share as much as we could.
No, yeah, exactly. We had more things planned to share, but luckily we are going to have lots of extra episodes. So,
well, thank you guys so much. The biggest thing we want everyone to know is that you're not alone in this. We want this to be a safe space to share our experiences as a community.
Exactly. And remember, we love you guys. And thanks for listening to today's episode of Coping Chaos. And as always, we will see you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Coping Chaos is hosted and produced by KJ Servey and Leah Williams. Audio mixed and edited by KJ Servey. Our theme song is by Lucas Servey and Leah Williams. Artwork is created by Lucas Servey. You can follow Coping Chaos on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Coping Chaos Podcast. Please feel free to rate and review wherever you stream, and send us your questions and Chaos Corner moments to copingchaospodcast@gmail.com.